All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Traffic and Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, September 11th. Well, what a reversal type day. I mean, what a trading environment the last couple days for those that like to scalp and like to day trade. I can't imagine a couple of days that were better than this in terms of the intraday movement, and a very good day, a second day for bulls, who are out there actively buying the dip. The Qs, what a big day today. Um, you know, Sorry, let me read the risk disclaimer first. Risk disclaimer first. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. But in yesterday's video, end of day video, and what I was thinking today is that we would see some continuation from the Qs. Little did I know that we were going to kind of do all kinds of round trip type moves where things really sold off in the first hour. I think even more so than yesterday's sell program that hit, and then a complete reversal back to the upside. So buyers coming out and taking advantage of that dip, and kind of like a wrestling match in terms of the buyers and sellers that are out there. So I'll review some of the price action, but I mean, look at where the Qs finished for the day, up 2.1%, SPY up 1%. IWM was an underperformer, and in my end of day video, I talked about taking a couple shots on some viewpoints and catalyst type trades. The first one that I mentioned was IWM. I thought IWM, which has been a underperformer, could get going if the inflation data was weaker today, and it certainly was not. And it came in a little bit to the upside, matched expectations month over month. Ex food and energy came in a little bit higher. So this did not work for the IWM trade, as you obviously need the data to support it, and IWM has been the big mover on these CPI days, but I was looking for either a 0.0 or 0.1. Didn't get that. All right, I still have that trade on for tomorrow because we get the PPI data that comes out tomorrow, and retail sales are next week. Last month I put an IWM trade on, and I put it on for 3 days, so it captured not only the CPI, the PPI, and also the retail sales, and that was what got the IWM trade to work. But this time around, I just covered the CPI and the PPI, so I don't think the trade will work, but we'll see. Give it the benefit of the doubt for tomorrow. Now, that was the first trade. The second trade was NVIDIA, and NVIDIA had a monster day, so that made up for the IWM trade. And I took that trade off for, I believe, a triple today. So again, NVIDIA had that event with Goldman Sachs today, and it just seemed ripe for a move, considering we're pretty washed out since the earnings report, and enough negative sentiment in there. So again, I think that's really important for this market right now. Let's talk a little bit about that price action, and I'm going to do this backwards. I'm going to just look at the 5-minute chart for a minute here, just so that you can kind of compare what we saw yesterday. Which, again, this was the move yesterday, happening, a little bit after 11 o'clock yesterday, and for about 45 minutes, and then, about face, and then a move. Today, we actually took out a downside VPOC, and this was right after the open. This lasted a little bit longer. This lasted about an hour and 20 minutes, just basically straight down. And to me, it just kind of shows you, if somebody has something to do where there's a big sell program or a big buy program, you're really pushing the market around. What I thought was interesting is where we got to, just a little bit above Friday's lows, and we didn't come in and take that out, right? And look at the move that we made. I'm going to explain this gray box that you see in here. Again, I use multiple time frames. The MarketWebs, you're going to hear me talk about the MarketWebs quite a bit, because they were really useful, and they've been that way. And I'll give you some examples in case you've never used the MarketWebs or volume at price. Why, in my opinion, it's a lot better than other volume at price systems. So let's look at the 1 hour chart. And this was a trade that I put on earlier in the week. This was a trade that I had talked about, the bullish 80% rule. And if you watch my videos this week, then you know what I'm referring to. And if you haven't been watching my videos, then I'll do a quick recap for you. But this is the note that I sent out earlier in the week, right? And here was the VPOC takeout, and we started to enter the value area. Once we do that, that triggers what's called the bullish 80% rule. And if you want more details on what the 80% rule is, just go ahead and Google value areas and the 80% rule, and it will give you a better, not a better, but a more elaborate description that I'm going to give you quickly in this video. But notice what I was targeting here, right? Bullish 80% rule completes. Now I'm using S&P futures, but here's the target, 556,250. Right, and notice that's exactly what I put here. So again, this is giving you a great roadmap of resistance and support. It amazes me to see how accurate this is. And, it gave us a little bit of shake and bake. And I was stopped out of this trade at one point earlier in the week. And it's a reminder that sometimes, because I executed this trade via SPY, but sometimes you're going to get shaken out of trades, and you've got to be able to kind of re-enter the trades and get over, the first attempt, which I think was here. Right in the beginning of this week, I had this idea and it fell out of the value area, broke back in, and I went back into it and kind of hung in there. Even today, I said, let's see if it's the trade then became like, are we going to hold the lows from last week? And I just figured, hey, intraday, give it a little bit. I thought that the move in the first hour was a bit too dramatic, so I didn't stop myself out today. But even if I did, I would have done the same thing. And then I did take profits right at this 555 today. So going back to what kind of environment that we're in, September, where it could be all over the place. And we certainly saw that last year, right? And that's another recap that I've given you. And I just tweeted that out so you can, which I can kind of bring up for you. But it's a reminder too. To not get overconfident, and especially September and October, which are generally harder times to trade. And I think today, looking at the movement that we saw, there are going to be these shakeouts that you see in September. It is not an easy month to trade, and this is a reminder to not get overconfident. So if you did something like this today, and this is completely fine, you could do your victory laps. And I like to have a little bit of fun with traders who are doing all kinds of victory laps, and make sure you don't go overboard like this, right? Because again, that's what you'll see a lot of traders do for the day, and they don't really have a plan. And they're doing that kind of thing today on Twitter. Hey, that's fine. You could do some celebrating. That's fine in the course of things, but don't act like one of these guys on Twitter, because I see it all day long. So make sure that you're understanding the environment that you're in. And for me, it's taking a lot of point A to point B trades. I'm a trend trader, so I have to adjust. I have to make a lot of adjustments in September and October, because we could really move. Going back to the other chart that I have up, we could do some back and forth price movement. So here's where we are on the daily chart. It's nice to see us. Number one, the first thing that I wanted us to do is regain the 5-period moving average. We also regained the 50-day moving average. All good things. You just have to worry about that 20-day moving average next, right? And the Qs, right? Just amazing. And again, this is something that I went over on Friday. I said that we had a ways to go as we were descending down on Friday. I said, hey, I wanted to see this bottom of value taken out. Now, again, I find this very useful, because I think a lot of traders, and a couple of traders told me on Twitter, well, we're going down and we're going to retest that 200-day moving average. And I said, well, let's see if we hold the bottom of value first, right? And again, these are levels of interest, right? They're important in terms of when you use the volume profile, where there's previous buyers and sellers. And that was right at this 448.16. I mean, to a dime, or actually to a penny in this situation. But very nice. And again, it's not to say that that this is easy thereafter, but you have a level to trade against, right? And that's what the valuaries do for me, is they take some of the emotion out of the equation and say, hey, I'm going to be long versus this level, regardless of this crazy back and forth movement. I'm going to try to stay long. Those are the types of things that the valuaries do for me, right? And again, bullish 80% rule was triggered, right? A little bit of a slip there. Again, the trigger goes away. Same thing here, goes away. And then we kind of came back in here and we broke higher. Also on the 5 minute, I thought today's 5 minute was particularly useful. Getting back into that value area for the day, which is here, and making a nice move. Obviously, trending for the rest of the day. So very interesting. Of course, I mentioned that I was looking for follow through and things like the semiconductors. Now, again, I think this is more or less, when you look at some of these charts, it's a situation where things got a little bit shaken out to the downside. I've not been positive the semiconductors over the last couple of weeks, but you have to be able to kind of change your mind quickly and notice when there's a good trade setup. And that's what I thought NVIDIA was doing yesterday, knowing that we had an event today where they can change things very quickly, right? Here's where we had earnings, right? This was all the way up at 128. And now you've got now you got a chance right at the bottom of the value area, right at this 107 level. And again, down here, right, once we break, I don't want anything to do with it once we break that value area. But once we re-enter, like we did yesterday, it's like, now we've got something, right? And just a huge day for NVIDIA. Also a couple other of the semiconductors. I'd be interested in this Taiwan semiconductor. ARM was another one that had a good day today. ARM actually, I think, looks the best, considering it has made it back above its value area for the month. And now, a new trade could be being long versus the top of value, which is 135, and to basically go from there. All right. And then set your stops just inside. But that's all it is, is just basically finding some setups and noticing as well what stocks were holding up in a weaker market, over the last week. GEV was a reminder. This is a name that you've heard me go over 2 or 3 times over the last, probably even more than that. But notice what this did last week when the rest of the market was selling off. This was not. That's called relative strength. And look at this thing break out to new highs, right? Another one is ONON, right, that I've been talking about, really kind of hung in there. And even today, I looked at it because I'm long this name, and I was like, oh, geez, this might be breaking the move. And, you've got to make adjustments. If we closed down there, I would have probably stopped myself out for the day. It is what it is, right? And again, you have to, understand, respect price, right, in this game. But intraday is one thing, and we kind of held in there and moved higher. A couple other stocks, Affirm, made a real nice turn. There's a lot of these, right, where you're seeing this downward move, right, and then finally a move back. I've kind of been sitting with this TMDX a bit too. I'd like to see a little bit more out of it. I may end up dumping it once it breaks up to the back up to its 50-day moving average. I kind of got trapped in this thing, but that's okay, right? And that's that name. Another name that I stopped myself out of last week was FTAI, which has been one of my favorite names. Let's see if it can retake 117 here and begin to trend higher again. Costco worked, has been a little bit all over the place too. Again, a lot of stocks have been doing that, have been all over the place, but that was a decent one too. In terms of our watch list, talked about those two names, ONON and GEV. Obviously, Palantir has been doing really well. ServiceNow and Shark Ninja, those two names, ServiceNow has been a little bit slower, but certainly moving in the right direction. That's also been showing some relative strength. Shark Ninja has been doing very well. Had a big week last week, consolidated a few days, and now pushing higher out of that mini consolidation. Very nice. Gold miner AGI is doing very well. IoT has done very well as well. So there's a couple names. App was a big name. You probably hear a lot of people talk about App 11 today. This is a name, small weight in our TTG trend portfolio. But look at the move today on a really nice not earnings report, but analyst report from I believe it was Bank of America. I think that's pushing towards that $100 VPOC up there. All right. A lot of other trades to go over. One other trade that I put on today was Race. Right. This is a name that I got long in the TTG trend portfolio a few weeks back. I like the pullback right into the top of the value area. Again, defining my trade here with 465 is the level that I'm trading against, and we'll see if it wants to bounce and continue to kind of break higher here. Guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.